Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the country's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. And we've got one for you today. Jon Robyns has been performing his entire life and appeared in some of the West End's biggest and most popular shows. Well, they don't come any bigger than Hamilton. He's currently starring in the world's #1 musical. It doesn't get better than that, Jon, does it?
Not really, no. It was quite a privilege to be part of it, and to be inside that bubble is quite an amazing thing.
I always wonder how they choose. Why you? Have you answered that question?
No, you don't. I don't really try and think about that. I mean, I guess timing plays a big deal. There's a big part with it. I was available at the right time. There are some jobs that you think are perfect for you, but you're not available for, or they don't think you're perfect for, and it's nice when your opinion matches their opinion. But I think what helped me get this one was my predecessor, Mike Gibson, pretty much talking me through the entire audition process. He and I have been mates for years, and when he found out that I was auditioning for it, he said, right, I'm leaving, so here's what you do. They want to see this, they want to see this, they want to see this. And I think that really helped.
You've got to be able to deliver, but it does seem like you've got to be able to tick all the boxes too. It's okay being the best star in the world, but if you're not doing exactly what they want, is that the key to success in auditions?
It is, but I always say that when I teach, I always say that auditioning is not so much about ability as it is about suitability. So That's exactly what you're saying here. You know, you've got to be able to do the things, but there are thousands and thousands of people that can do the thing. It's whether you are right, not whether you are good. And you can't legislate for that. You know, you are who you are, and you are the product that you are, and you bring what you bring. And if it matches, amazing, then go for it. And if it doesn't, try not to beat yourself up about it, you know. Oh,
I wish we'd have had this conversation before my Magic Mike audition. Would have saved me hours on the train. Don't worry about that. You're going to be on tour this year. You're going to be in Liverpool and Leicester and London, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. I mean, what's interesting about you is you've really not known a life off the stage, have you? You've been blessed to have gig after gig, and you've done other stuff too. It's sort of a dream career.
It's been wonderful, yeah, and I don't take it for granted. I mean, there have been months where I've worked in bars. I'm not going to pretend that I haven't had those jobs, but I've been incredibly lucky that the jobs that I have been suitable for have come along at times when I needed them or was available for them. So yeah, it's been good. And over the last couple of years, I've really purposely filtered in doing the gigging as well as doing shows, and I really feel like they're different skills. So I'm trying to hone my skills as a gigger and a concert artist as much as an actor on stage in a show.
I think you're right. I think to own the stage yourself for 2.5 hours is about your personality and charisma, whereas the show is the star, isn't it, when you're in a musical?
Yeah, and you have to think like that. You know, it is a different brain. I think when you're an actor, you are interpreting the writers and the directors and sometimes the producers' vision of what you're doing. You're the body and the voice and the mouth of their ideas. When it's a concert, it's very much more you and your ideas and your presentation of it. So yeah, it's definitely a split brain thing, and I'm trying to get both right.
Musical direction will be on tour, Liverpool Philharmonic from the 15th. Then, of course, you go to Leicester Square, back to London in town on the 22nd, and Leicester Curve. I'll see you there on the 29th, and people can get tickets by going to your website. Just put Jon Robyns into Google and it comes up top. Let's just talk about some of the roles you've had. I mean, I think I first saw you in Avenue Q, which back in its day was so revolutionary and brilliant. I just saw it about 6 months ago, and it didn't have the same kick for me. It's sort of been usurped by the Book of Mormons and South Park and things like that. But right when it was launched on Broadway, it was so refreshing, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, I really feel that it is a piece of its time. It is definitely a turn of the millennium type piece. And, you know, the whole internet is for porn gag is sort of amusing now because it's said by a puppet. But at the time, people weren't talking about that sort of thing. People used the internet in a very different way. There was no social media. The political landscape was very different. I mean, the whole George Bush is only for now gag that used to get standing ovations during the show. The show lost some punch when he left office. So I think it's a show of its time, and even though it's got so much heart and so much warmth and so much truth involved in it, and it's beautifully put together, and it is a great show, I think it has lost something over the years. And doing it at the time, I think felt special at the time, but feels even more special in hindsight.
And we talk about that hype today, and there is no bigger show in the world than Hamilton that you're currently starring in. Have you put your finger on why that show has such hype? And they release 3 months of tickets, and before they've pressed the send button on the email, it's already sold out. It's an extraordinary phenomena, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it comes from the fact that the show itself on the page and the choreography are some of the best of its generation and holds its own among the canon of musical theatre as a whole. You know, and you can't have the sort of hype that it has and the perseverance it has and the life that it will have without just being brilliant. So the scaffolding is brilliant, and then you add on top of it some of the most incredible performers. I mean, I'm barely involved in the show. For those who haven't seen it, I play King George, and I'm on stage for 12 minutes. It's a very memorable 12 minutes, I think, because I'm pretty much the only still thing in the entire show. So I feel like I can compliment it without complimenting myself too much. But the abilities that they find in the performers are just second to none, and it has to be, because the choreography is very, very hard, very energetic, and requires real skill, and the music is the same, and the lyrics are the same, and I think everything is turned up to 11. So even though people go in sort of having been told the hype, it exceeds expectations, and I think that's what keeps it going.
I just saw it 2 weeks ago, and it made me realise I'm not wrong. I get criticised a lot for being too hard on touring productions and some West End shows where I walk out. I think life's too short to sit through crap. And what this show proves is there is talent out there, and they can be pushed to 100%, and shows can be perfect. And when they put stuff out that is sort of fill a guff just to fill seats, it bothers me. And Hamilton doesn't do that. There isn't a second lost in that show. There isn't a lighting cue that doesn't work. There's not a sound cue that's missed. It's remarkable, just as a piece of production, isn't it?
Yeah, it is amazing. I watched it twice as a punter, not knowing I was going to be in it a year before I got cast, just because I had to see it because I was such a fan of the album. And then during rehearsals, I watched it 2 or 3 times, and I watched it from various places in the theatre, and it is a different experience depending on where you sit.
Oh,
and
really?
I watched it from the standing seats, which are literally right at the back with the follow spots. And from there, you really do get an overview of the lighting, and the lighting itself moves the story forward. It's narrative. It propels the story, and this is what I mean. Every single individual element, sound, lighting, the way the automation works with the revolve, the choreography, the words, the music, the lyric, everything propels the story forward in tandem with each other. I think that's what makes a sort of wonderful collective whole. But you're right, you know, you would love to think that the West End is the absolute pinnacle of our country and arguably the world's musical theatre, and it should be, and that's where shows like this need to be.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting you mentioned the Revolve, because one of the shows you're in, Les Miserables, I saw similarities between the two shows. There's something anthemic in both, isn't there? And I sat there just thinking, this is sort of the new Les Mis of 2019.
It really is. And I think Lin-Manuel Miranda's been pretty overt in his comparisons between the two. You know, I think he says that Les Mis is pretty much the grandfather of Hamilton anyway, and the Revolve is somewhat of an homage to Les Mis anyway. And you've got the whole antagonist-protagonist chasing each other and bugging each other all the way through, very similar to Les Mis with Sergeant and Javert. You know, if anything, I guess I'm Thénardier.
Yeah, that's right.
Horrendous comparison, but far better costume.
But it's that light relief, and we're waiting for it. And I think it would be being like punched in the head if there weren't those 3 breaks where you come on and just let everybody go, oh, thank God for you. And you do that. And that is the same with the Thénardiers. They come on and we go, oh, thank God another person hasn't died.
I'm not going to die in this one.
Yeah. It's amazing. You can see Hamilton. It's on in the West End. How long are you in this for now?
The cast change is in not too long, actually, a couple of months, beginning of November-ish. So I've got that long there.
How does it feel when you leave a dressing room for the last time? Because you've had some huge roles. Another similarity, of course, between Les Mis, Hamilton is Spamalot, because, of course, you played the king in that too. You do seem to get the pompous roles, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, I'm very English. And I think people have noticed. Leaving a dressing room is always... It's very cliche, but the cliches stand up because they're true. Being a part of a show and having a family feels like that, for better or for worse. Everything's a family. So the arguments are there, the love is there, the warmth is there, the annoyance is there, the insistence in being each other's space is there. It's very much like being a family. So that's sort of the hardest part of my job, is making these strong friendships, because you have to trust each other on stage and off stage. You've got to trust the stage management and the sound guys and all that stuff. And you make a family, and then you have to leave, and then you immerse yourself in another one and make just as strong a friends there. So it's a funny thing. I remember leaving Avenue Q, actually, because that was a big deal to me, and it was my West End debut. And I was 23, 24 when I left. And the next day, the Sunday afterwards, I almost couldn't get out of bed. I was pretty much in mourning for it. And it is a sort of weird, visceral response sometimes. And then sometimes you finish a job and you think, oh, thank God for that. And you leave because it was not what you wanted it to be, or it was a lot of hassle, or it was away from your family, or whatever it was. So it kind of depends on the show, but it's never a passive experience finishing a show. And
it's really interesting. I spend my life looking at grids and which show is doing well and which show isn't. Just this week, there's a show on in Leicester that sold about 30 tickets and a 500-seater that's touring the UK. Is there any more depressing feeling than knowing you're in something that's a flop, the antithesis of what you're currently doing, which is that you can't get a ticket for love nor money, even if you sleep with the producers?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, from an actor's point of view, especially on tour. I mean, it's true in the West End as well, but on tour especially, it's never about the what, it's always about the who. So if you have a brilliant group of people and an absolute turkey of a show, then it doesn't always matter. Similarly, if you have the best show in the world but a group of absolute idiots around you, you'll have a horrible time.
Right.
So from a personal point of view, from a business point of view and a producer, I can understand that it's, heartbreaking to look out into an audience and see nobody and their dog. But from an actor's point of view, when you're actually doing the show, if you've got a group of people around you who are like-minded, who everyone's on board, everyone's doing what they need to do and pulling where they need to pull, it almost doesn't matter, as long as the show continues and you can still pay your mortgage. But yeah, it's always about the who, it's never about the what.
That's a very interesting way of putting it. And when you're going on the road now, Liverpool, Leicester, London, with this new show, is this a chance for you to be your most authentic you? I guess you're producing it, you're organising everything from the songs to the lighting to everything. Is this you at your happiest, or would you rather have the confines of a beautiful production like Hamilton or Les Mis?
Well, I enjoy both, and it's certainly more comforting to let other people do stuff around you and for you. But in terms of whether it's most authentic me, I think it probably is. I've chosen these songs in conjunction with the musical directors on the album. I should explain why it's called musical direction, I suppose. I've worked with some incredible MDs, some of Broadway's and the West End's best MDs, and become very good friends with almost all of them. And I wanted to sort of pay an homage to them and celebrate their work, because they don't always get celebrated in the way they should. And quite frankly, I just, in a show, stand where I'm told, sing how I'm told, what I'm told, and when I'm told. And, obviously I get the plaudits at the end of the night, and they don't necessarily. And so I think I wanted to just show that these MDs are creative, they are artists, and every track on the album is arranged and played by a different MD. And so I wanted to do that, and choosing the songs with them was just one of the best parts of this whole experience. And yeah, I'll be playing the guitar and the piano and singing the whole album, plus some stuff that I haven't performed before. I have wonderful people that come and see pretty much every show I do, and it's not taken for granted by me, I promise you. And I'll be singing some stuff that they've never seen before, so that's always terrifying and exciting in equal measure.
2 questions on the back of that. Does an MD have the right in something like Hamilton to change a note or a rhythm or a beat or anything, or is their job to recreate it as it's written and as it sounds everywhere else in the world at 7:30 at that exact second?
Well, Hamilton sort of runs on a knife edge of perfection, so you cannot sway too far either way, and they appoint musical directors and associate directors and resident directors to make sure that it stays its course. Alex Lacamoire, who is the, I guess, world's number 1 MD and arranger at the moment, having done Greatest Showman and Dear Evan Hansen and Hamilton. So he's all right for cash right now. He's a complete perfectionist, but in the nicest possible way. Similarly to a lot of geniuses, he hears it one way, and that's the way he needs it, and that's totally fine. Richard Beadle, who is our MD, who is one of the MDs on my album as well, he goes to great pains to make sure that it stays the way he was taught it, and he passes that down to the backup MDs that come and do it when he's not doing it. So, in answer to your question, yeah, it has to stay pretty much as it is.
And again, that's the joy of putting your own show on. Musical direction can go in which direction you want it to. And the fans are interesting too. During my career over the last 20 years, I've seen the birth of stars of the West End. I mean, of course, we had Elaine and Michael, but that was about the size of it. But now there's this whole new generation of people like you and Kerry and Maz and these other people who tour the UK, Louise and people like that the fans just love. I think Wicked helped particularly, didn't it? That made stars of musical theatre. It must be an exciting time to do what you do, because they will find you now. The internet has changed that.
Yeah, it really has. And I think there's no way we could do that sort of life without social media, without the internet. And it's such a wonderful tool when used properly. And I released a video of one of the studio sessions of me doing Grace Kelly by Mika, which is on the album, and the response that I got back from that was so much bigger than I expected it to be, because, like you say, it multiplies exponentially when you put something out, then they put it out, and people share, and it just spreads like wildfire so quickly, and it's so nice from getting responses from all over the world about something that you did, because when you put something out into the world, as you know, you kind of go, are people going to respond to this at all? It's so heartwarming when they do.
And it can go right and it can go wrong. And I suppose that's the other joy of the internet. If they love it, they'll tell you. And if they hate it, they'll tell you.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's no hiding behind anywhere. Listen, congratulations. I've seen you many times over the years, and seeing you in Hamilton just absolutely clarifies the fact that you're a leading man who just makes it look easy. And again, these character parts, many of which you've done over the years, are so specific, and they take such dedication. And I know comedians always talk about timing and all of that, and I think in this piece especially, timing has never been more important. As you say, one beat wrong and the whole thing sort of falls off the tracks, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. I mean, I guess I get more leeway than anyone else, because comic timing can't really be put down the same night after night. It's a living thing. It has to respond to what the audience are giving you. So, you know, they have a big part to play with how the beats plan out night to night. So I get a little bit more leeway than anyone else. But our mutual friend Joe Pasquale paid me a compliment saying that I was good at what I did. So that was I'll take that from Joe, because he knows his stuff.
And as for what's coming up next, can we talk about that, Jon?
Who knows? It's up for grabs right now, and I'm looking forward to it. But to be honest, I'm focusing so hard on getting the album right, getting the tour right, and enjoying Hamilton.
You are a big star, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Jon Robyns is on tour through the UK in September. See him in Liverpool, London and Leicester. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.